I'm kicking off Chapter 14 of our low tiers run by promoting Amelia into a general. I consider the Great Knight promotion to be a stronger option due to the extra point of movement range, but I do consider the General to be way funnier. General has surprisingly good promotional gains. Our offenses are still a little bit shaky, but the defense is higher than any other unit in the army. While she gains new weapon types, she only gains E rank in them. Chapter 14 is a fairly slow chapter with multiple branching paths and long winding hallways. This chapter is fairly safe if you take it slowly, so I'll be using this as an opportunity to get Ewan as many kills as possible. The next chapter is a desert chapter full of sand, in which mages have an unrestricted full movement range. If we have Ewan promoted by then, he'll be a big boon in that chapter. I set up Amelia as a wall to start the process of training Ewan. He starts the chapter at level 2, we'll see if we can get him above level 10 by the end of it. His offensive stats are actually already pretty good for his level, so I don't anticipate this process to be particularly hard. I clear out most of the enemies in the right side room so I can move La Rochelle in there without fear. I need to catch up to the rogue, Renick, to recruit him. Both Rennac and La Rochelle can move 6 tiles a turn, however Renick will slow down to open doors and chests along the way, making it easy to catch him as soon as possible. I'll also be training Marisa for a couple levels this chapter alongside Ewan. I'm trying to get her more weapon experience by using an Iron Blade, and I get a Hero's Crest this chapter that I can use to promote her by the end. I can now move La Rochelle up to recruit Rennac. It's easier to recruit him the earlier you do it in the chapter before he has time to get away. Rennac doesn't deal enough damage to be worth using, and he doesn't get much better when trained. He'll likely continue to gain speed and nothing else. Unlike what I did with Colm, I'm not really interested in trying to patch up his terrible strength stat with supports, as his support affinity sucks. His only decent available partner I have is La Rochelle, and I don't want to press the end turn button 70 times in a row to get support ranks for a weak pre-promote. We'll be using him to open boxes and probably nothing else, unless we're really desperate. An enemy Myrmidon drops a Hero's Crest we can finally use on Marisa. I'm going to use Gilliam and Ross to clear out all of the enemies on the path to the throne. The rest of my army is going to focus on training up Ewan and Marisa while getting the extra treasure chests from the rooms on the bottom left. On any turn that La Rochelle isn't healing, I gave her a barrier staff she can spam for some extra experience. She's still pretty far behind, and I don't know if I can promote her anytime soon, but I'm making the effort to try and make her reach a point where I can eventually use her for combat. La Rochelle is proving to be a very underwhelming unit. Even though she has a horse, she only has 6 points of movement, unlike the troubadours seen in Fire Emblem 6 and 7. This movement range is equal to that of the other healers you would reasonably have by this point, such as promoted foot mages and Sala. However, La Rochelle has low stats and can't fight, and it's going to take absolutely forever to make her reach a point where she can attempt to contribute in that fashion. Meanwhile, Natasha, who I already consider to be low tier on her own, has already made meaningful combat contributions, such as using Bishop Slayer in Chapter 12 and doing chip damage. I grabbed the Ewan training squad to go after the lower left rooms I still haven't opened by this point. I do this just in time because the reinforcement waves of Cavaliers have started to arrive from the bottom right corner of the map. This is where Amelia's low offenses are actually going to come in handy. I can have her wall off the Cavaliers taking 0 damage while weakening them to get kills from my other units. One of the 3 enemy Cavaliers each wave uses a Javelin instead of an Iron Lance. I'm going to position my units to try to convince that unit to go after Ewan. A Bishop on the top side of the map wields a Berserk Staff, so I'm going to need to stall my advance until I can catch up with La Rochelle, who has a Restore Staff who can fix status conditions. Ewan only has a 35% chance to gain speed, so you would expect the level 6 Shaman to have around 11 speed by this point of the game. However, my Ewan is 14. A speed-blessed Ewan can be kind of overkill considering that he's going to gain 3 more points of speed upon promotion to a Druid or a Summoner. However, considering Ewan's high luck growth, he might be able to reach very high points of Avoid if my Ewan keeps gaining speed. My original plan for Ewan was to get him to a level 10 Shaman and promote him directly into Summoner so I could use him as a utility unit, not as a combat unit. However, my Ewan's turning out above average, and I might actually want to focus on gaining him extra levels before promoting to really squeeze out some extra stats. If I want a purely utility Summoner, that's what I'm going to have in Chapter 15 anyway once I recruit and promote Null. Given Ewan's promising start, I'm actually quite interested in preparing him properly for combat. While I'm fully aware that part of this is due to my unique playstyle and the fact that my Ewan is blessed, he's actually not quite as bad as I originally thought he was before starting this playthrough. Eirika's route has provided ample training opportunities to get him caught up. Chapter 12 has several stationary enemies he can fight as free training dummies, and Chapter 14 has given me ample opportunity to set up kills for him. Additionally, since he attacks with magic at 2 range, he's much easier to train compared to many other weak units in this game. Marisa, for example, has been a real slog because she has to close in and typically doesn't deal very much damage. On the flip side, enemies typically have a low res stat and Ewan has been absolutely blasting through them with his magic. It has taken a lot of effort and a specific playstyle to take Ewan this far, however, it's working out. I wouldn't really recommend using Ewan if you play more conventionally, but as a low tiers run, he might actually become a pretty powerful unit by the end of it. Fire Emblem is an RPG after all, and the units that turn out powerful are often the units you choose to train the most. I think this is something people sometimes forget when they like to discuss unit viability and unit strength. It's why you have such mixed opinions on Ross in comparison to Garcia. Ross does genuinely turn out faster when given enough training, it's just that you have to train him more to get to that point. And when you're doing a no grinding playthrough, you have to consider the opportunity cost of training a unit and how to distribute your limited use of experience. The differences in playstyle and approach from your classic low turn count playthrough to a playthrough of full level grinding makes raiding units very different based on the perspective of the player who's playing the game. I see this playthrough as a sort of in-between. While we're not using level grinding in the form of Tower of Valni, arena battles, or boss abuse, we're still willing to slow down to give Ewan a ton of kills like you see right now. Some people are simply unwilling to do this and would say that Ewan is one of the worst characters in the game, and given their playstyle, I would have to agree with them. However, in the specific playstyle I'm approaching for this run-through, I'm not even sure if I put Ewan in the bottom 5 units. I think I consider him to be better than units like Colm, Rennac, and La Rochelle. In fact, because we'll be using him for combat on top of using him for healing and summoning, he'll probably make a bigger splash in this playthrough than units like Dozla. I've used Dozla so little he hasn't gained a level up yet, despite having him for several chapters by this point. I only really use Dozla for combat if other units can't kill everything in a room and I really need more things dead for safety. Honestly, because Dozla won't be using the Garm and his base speed is only 9, he's really unappealing to train despite the fact that his growth rates are actually pretty good. It was at this point I realized both Gilliam and Ross are frankly terrible units for fighting this boss. He's a high avoid swordsmaster that's hard to get hits on. Gilliam risks dying to 2 critical hits if he closes in the close range, but fighting him with a javelin only gives me a 29% chance to hit. I send Renick to the secret shop and I buy a metric crap ton of killer weapons. Colm and Neimi have decent crit rates on account of their A support, so with killer weapons I can get them up to around a 45 to 50% chance to land a critical hit. Swordsmasters and Berserkers have an innate plus 15% chance to their critical rate, meaning that Marisa and Dozla will also do well with killer weapons. I also bought killer lances. I can only really use them with Amelia, but her strength is a bit low, so I might need to fish for critical hits to actually one around some enemies in the late game. I went a bit wild and got multiple killer lances, so I might have to give one to Gilliam as well just to use them up. Also, would anyone care to explain to me what the deal is with these shaman reinforcements on the left side of the map? What exactly are they meant to threaten? They spawn absolutely nowhere near the rest of my units, and they spend 10 turns charging through an empty hallway. To be honest, I really don't like the layout of this map at all. The spiral design makes it very difficult to have your units meet up by the end. And because I sent Eirika to the left side foolishly, I'm going to have Neimi carry Eirika across the entire spiral all the way to the throne. The entire time I'm doing this, I have La Rochelle spamming barriers. This could easily be the closest thing to level grinding I've done all playthrough, but to be honest, I was just bored, and this is honestly the fault of the map design. While I definitely should have sent Eirika along with the right side of the group at the beginning of the chapter, I had no idea it would take me this long to complete the chapter this way. If I could have finished the chapter more quickly at this point, I would have. I was also awaiting a unit to arrive who could more reliably kill the boss in a shorter number of turns, so I wasn't gaining an excessive amount of EXP for boss abuse. I killed the boss of Neimi and Colm using the support bonuses in the killer bow to get a quick kill, ending the chapter. Thank you for watching.